powerful about striking a stone. It's a test of patience, precision, and perseverance. At first glance, it seems impossible, but with every swing, every strike, you're inching closer to that final hit.
Let's start one play at a time. Do your job, one play at a time. Trust your brother, one play at a time. Be reliable, one play at a time. All our effort, one play at a time.
Stone is ancient. It's tough. It doesn't give easily. But even the strongest stones have a weakness. A barrier waiting to be shattered.
Let's get it. We out here work, man. Another day for the Flames, baby. Let's get it.
We've come here with a purpose. This isn't just a stone. It's an opportunity to tap into our strength.
Help us play as one and help us dominate today, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Come on, baby.
Each strike requires focus and determination. You feel the weight of the moment in every strike. Each seemingly insignificant strike accumulates over time, stirring change beneath the surface until it breaks.
Looking to the end zone, fade, right corner, it's going to be caught over the shoulder, light him up!
I need you to lay it on line. That heart, that blood is pumping inside of you. I need you to look at that guy to the right and left, behind, front, and say, I'm giving it all for you tonight.
On the right hash, throws end zone, wide open, sliding catch, light him up! Throw near side, picked off by the Flames! Fade right sideline, Tyson Mobley! An acrobatic catch on the far sideline. Throws end zone. It's going to be a diving attempt and a catch made. Light him up. Touchdown, Liberty. Berger. Touchdown, Liberty. Went Reese on the blitz. And oh my God, he hit. The ball is up. It's being taken back by C.J. Mazzell. Light him up. Touchdown, Liberty.
Each strike isn't just about power. It's intention. Transforming resolve into action. We've transformed not just the stone, but something within ourselves.
If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. Hey there, friends. Welcome to Flames Central Game Day, brought to you by Earthright, Mid-Atlantic Solar and Energy Efficiency. Hey there, friends. Rhett McGibbon here alongside Pat Kelly, Reginald Walker Jr. Were you the body double in there striking the stone in that cold open?
No, I don't have it.
Was it James Earl Jones doing the voice
Maybe,
there? I mean,
yeah,
that was powerful.
Definitely good. Hey, we're almost midway through this season. Flames still undefeated. Did lose a game against App State, and everybody understands the reason why behind that. But when we look at the CFP outlook for that G5 team trying to make their way in, there's some teams out there that have a pretty strong schedule now, but I want to focus on Liberty first. When you lose a game, do you still have what it takes to have the credentials to be noticed by the committee to get in?
It's tough, especially with the schedule that Liberty's got this year. Conference USA a little bit lighter just in terms of the competition, whereas your Boise's and some of those other teams are playing a little bit stiffer competition. It's really, really hard. One thing that we saw from last week is there was a lot of attrition, teams knocking off one another. I think Liberty's going to need a lot of chaos to help out, but losing that game to cancellation certainly doesn't help things.
Reggie, can I ask you this? When you look, at the beginning of the year, a lot of people said, okay, it came out, Liberty has a really weak schedule.
Yep.
And then a lot of fans pointed to the App State weekend and ECU. And in all truthfulness, ECU is not having a great year. They just got absolutely demolished by Charlotte. App State's had a down year outside of what has happened recently in their area. So is there any hope when you look at conference contenders like a Sam Houston that's done pretty well, or Western Kentucky that can kind of get them back into that conversation?
No, and I think the main reason why, and I hate to say no flat out, but I think the main reason why you start looking down the schedules of some of the teams in this conference. Sam Houston State, not the strongest strength of schedule in terms of their non-conference. And then you look at some of the teams outside of the league. You look at, for instance, a Boise State. The one loss they do have is by 3 points to the number 3 team in the country in Oregon. They've also beaten Washington State, which is a 4-1 football team, and they've still got Oregon State on the schedule, another 4-1 football team. So you start looking at it from that standpoint. Army and Navy are going to eventually play each other. Navy's already beaten a 4-1 Memphis team. So it starts to add up, and it's just tough to find those quality wins in conference play.
Yeah, let's continue this conversation looking at some of the contenders for that G5 spot. And you mentioned Boise State, right? Taking on number 3 Oregon. So I thought Boise was going to pull it off, truthfully.
I did too.
Memphis still in the mix, even though they did have a loss to Navy. And then you look at Navy and Army, both sitting at 4-0. UNLV at 4-1 on the season. There's some teams there that definitely have, in my mind, stronger looking schedules, and also some teams that are coming in the future to probably be favored over a Liberty team.
Yeah, I think Boise State is the one that really stands out to me right now. Obviously, they're the highest in the rankings so far. They've got a Heisman candidate in Ashton Jeanty right now. Guy's just an absolute freak. 16 touchdowns on the year. They have a ton of talent on that team. Other than that, I think UNLV has a chance. A pretty strong showing, although they just dropped one to Syracuse. Reggie mentioned it earlier. Army and Navy are going to, one of them will knock each other off.
But they both play Notre Dame, so they get a chance. Both of them get a chance to get at least a visually name recognition quality win.
Well, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as the season continues on. Hey, thrilled now to be joined by President of Liberty University, Dr. Dondi Costin. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Great to be here. Thanks.
I got a fun question for you right off the bat. You know, coaches have winning percentages, right? And there's always the history involved with, hey, this coach has the highest winning percentage of all time. You as president, I don't know if there's a pool for like presidents and their winning percentage, but you've got to be up there. You know, almost undefeated last year, haven't lost yet this year.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way this trend is going, so I
right.
hope it continues tonight and all the way through the rest of the season.
President, I have to ask you this. Your background, Air Force Academy, same time as the College Football Playoff Executive Director, Rich Clark, came out together.
That's right.
He's running things now.
Yeah.
Undefeated could happen. Are you making a phone call to your old friend
listen,
down in Dallas?
I asked him to come a couple of weeks ago to the UTEP game because the president of UTEP is also an Air Force Academy graduate.
Oh.
And so, as is the president of Texas A&M.
Yes.
And so the week before he'd gone to Texas A&M, and I said, hey, you gotta come hook a brother up and see. But he refused. So I hope, but I do have a cell phone number, so I hope to make that call at some point.
Awesome.
Dr. Costin, one question that I have, you know, we've talked a little bit about the Air Force, kind of the background there. Is there anything from your time within the Air Force that you have taken, you know, you apply it to daily life now, or that you enact every single day, part of a routine or anything like that that you could tell us about?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things you learn as a Service Academy graduate is discipline. And so I've tried to maintain, you know, physical discipline and spiritual disciplines, et cetera. But one of the phrases that I think about often, I learned at the Air Force Academy as a teenager, and that is, if you take care of the people will take care of the mission. And so that sort of leadership idea is what I think about all the time.
That's awesome. Is that part of why Rhett talked about this record that we have here? You're taking care of people, they're taking care of the mission.
Listen, like I said, I hope Jamey Chadwell has a long tenure here. That's all I'm saying.
For sure. Well, Liberty football doing a lot of winning on the field, but also off the field, doing a lot of winning. Recently, a story came out by Flame Central, Eli August accepting Christ during his time here. When you see that as president, what does that mean to you that they're able to accomplish a lot of good in men's lives?
Yeah, you know, the thing about really all athletics, and when I look at Scripture, I see lots of athletic imagery in Scripture, and so the same principles that apply on the athletic field apply in your spiritual life, in your emotional life, in your mental life. And so if you're good at athletics, you ought to be naturally good at the other things as well. And so I love the fact that our coaches, really in every program, athletic trainers, all of them focus on what matters most. And so the thing that thrills my heart greatly is to see a young man come to Christ while here. And so it is the best part of the job.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, Dr. Costin, thanks for taking the time to join us again.
Pleasure.
Hopefully the Flames stay undefeated here tonight.
Go Flames.
All right, time to take a look now at our Century Exterior Scouting Report. We dive into FIU, and this is a team that has been all over the map this year, guys. In all truthfulness, you play a Central Michigan team that's not half bad, sitting at 3-2 on the season, and they do very well against them. Then they play Monmouth, which I'm sure a lot of Flames fans are familiar with from back in the FCS days, and you get beat. So my question is, with the real FIU, please stand up. I know that's not a Pitbull song, but it's still at the same time, you're kind of wondering exactly who this team is.
Yeah, there's no question about that, Rhett. I mean, you see the highs and you see the lows. Starting the season off, they had 3 games where they ran for less than 90 yards, really struggling to figure some things out. They've had a couple games in a row where they've been able to throw the football. It's a team that, when I describe them, I think they're athletic. I think they're super athletic. They're fast, but they take plays off, and that a lot of times that can come back to bite you. So I am still curious who this real FIU team is. I tend to think that they're probably a little bit more, Reggie, you said this earlier, like that Week 5 Louisiana Tech matchup, a little bit gritty. But I guess we're going to see tonight. Yeah, starting to hit their stride, particularly on defense. I think this was their best defensive performance. You look at it from a score standpoint right there, obviously that being the case, but they were just so much better defensively, much more gap sound in the running game, and that's a Louisiana Tech offense that can really score some points with Sonny Cumbie at the helm.
This is a team, though, the running game has not been terrific this year. In your opinion tonight, to have success away from home, does that need to step up and go in the right direction? Because Lexington Joseph started to show signs of life last game against LA Tech. Can the big man, and he is a big man, be the catalyst that they need?
I think the run game is important in any time that you're going into a game. It just helps so many other things start to take place. Where I think this team struggles a little bit is up front. They weren't great last year along the offensive line. They've got a little bit more experience this year. But I think you're going to see the quarterback tonight have to roll out left, roll out right quite a bit, just because he's not going to be able to stay protected.
Well, I think that's the key, is it's finding a way to bottle him up, because he's a lefty, so that's one problem to begin with, because a lot of things are flipped with this offense. Then the other piece of it is, if he starts to get outside, he can create a lot of problems with his feet, and when he starts running around and making plays, you've got a bigger problem, because now he's doing things off schedule, which your defense is not necessarily keyed up for. So I think going to be very important to keep Keywan inside the pocket tonight.
I will say one thing. If they do get beat tonight, they still may be the best dressed team out there. You have to say, those Miami Vice jerseys, home
like
and
those.
Away, very clean.
That got my blood boiling, guys. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I will go down to Miami and play for them. Yeah. Those things are beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, if only they bring back the car from the old Miami Vice, the Ferrari Testarossa, yeah. I'm all in.
Yeah, you look good in the pink. I think. Yeah, I could see it.
You're knocking my blue tie?
No,
I mean, what do you want?
I can see the pink eye. I can see the pink. Yeah. Good go. All right, time to take a look now at the Flames scouting report. In all truthfulness, when you look at this Liberty team, this seems like a group that still has yet to really, in my mind, kind of find that consistent effort and find themselves and just know exactly what they're planning to do game in and game out. It feels a little bit disarray.
You're not wrong. We were spoiled by this team last year because early on in the year they were #1 in the country, and they held that for the entire season in terms of rushing the football. This team, though, one thing that I'll say is they're resilient and they're finding ways to win games. So whether it's having to rush for 200 yards or having to rely on the passing game, where a couple weeks ago we saw Reese Smith with three receiving touchdowns, they're finding ways to win.
Well, they're doing it also, I think, with defense. This football team, 9 sacks already this year. Last year it was about going and get the football in terms of interceptions. This year, a lot more of sacking the quarterback. But guys, listen to this. This defense, top 35 in the nation in terms of total defense, but also just 31% third down conversions allowed. This is a team playing really good, solid defense.
Well, Pat, you just mentioned Reese Smith. Let's bring him on in on the show with our Carl Miller Realty Field Pass. Reese, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's go back to last game. 3 touchdowns. You tie a program record in that sense. But when you come into a game like today, that production that you had, is there a greater sense of peace and calmness coming into the game today for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, we had a mishap last week and couldn't play App State. So I think the biggest thing is staying just locked in, daily, not relaxing. I know the guys have been eager to play this week, and, we just got to stay patient, wait for our time to come, and tonight is the time.
Hey, Reese, it's Pat Kelly here, former receiver at Liberty. So I love watching your game. I love your style of play. I have my answer to this question, but if someone were to say, what is the strength of your game? What is your go-to? What is your best trait?
Right. I think I got really good ball skills, really good hands to catch the ball. I think I have other really good skill traits as well, but I think that is definitely my strength.
You don't necessarily need a bragging session from us here, but my answer for that was body control. The way that you can adjust with the ball in the air, it's excellent. I like your answer.
Reese, Reginald Walker here, former defensive back. I got to ask you this. One of the things that we could never stand is when you guys decide that you want to block us in the running game as well. Is there some competition with receivers in terms of getting those key blocks? You guys are averaging over 5 yards a carry. How much is that a competition and a pride thing in the receiver room?
100%. We preach that on a weekly basis, you know. As a receivers, Coach Washington's kind of instilled that in our minds, like take pride in our blocking. Like, you know, the receivers are going to make plays down the field, but we got to figure out how to get the run game started too, and that's a big thing with our offense. So, you know, getting on the game early and, you know, getting on them DBs and, you know, safeties early plays a big role in our offense, and I think our whole receiver corps takes pride in that.
Well, Reese, we appreciate the time. Keep cooking out there, buddy.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all. All
right, that was Reese Smith. Big game last game against ECU, and he was taking some punishment. This wasn't just like, you know, over the top, wide open, bringing it in, running for 20 yards and making it pretty. He climbed the ladder on one play where he was taking some punishment.
Yeah, he showed some athleticism, but I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, PK. I'm going to go with toughness for his trait, because he's one of those guys. He'll do whatever's got to be done to make that play. He's really been a key and an added piece to this offense after sitting out last season.
He plays with a chip on his shoulder, man. He wants to knock somebody's block off, and then it's almost like a reward of, oh, I get a catch too? This is great. That's a great point.
Pat, you ever come off a game injury where you've been out maybe for a while or suffered something significant, and there's that feeling like, all right, is this all going to feel normal again? I'm sure for him the last game where you get 3 touchdowns, huge sigh of relief, like, oh, all right, injuries behind me and things are clicking.
Yeah, I tore my MCL going into my sophomore year, and I distinctly remember, you know, you plant that foot in the ground and you're kind of hesitant. You know, is this thing going to hurt again? Am I going to tear it again? And for me, a big-time confidence moment was we were playing NC State, and it was the first pass that I caught that it was like, oh, the game kind of slowed down a little bit, and it was like, oh, you can do this. You can go back out there and play. So great question. Yes, that happened to me before, and you could see it with Reese last week. Yeah. He got kind of that first catch, got involved in the game, and it was like, oh, I remember. I know how to do this.
Yeah, look, I think sometimes we forget that this game is just as much mental as it is physical, and you've got to be able to recover from injuries mentally faster really than you do physically. Yeah. You've got to start to accept whatever the doctors had to do or whatever the case may be, that you're there mentally, and then trust their work on the backside.
All right, time to dive now into the numbers powered by Alcova Mortgage. I was expecting Joe Yock to pop up somewhere.
Under the desk.
Yeah, exactly. Bobblehead or something on the side. Tale of two halves for this Liberty offensive unit. You look at it there. I love this first stat. Average points per game, 10 in the first half, 91st in the FBS. You move to the second half, and all of a sudden that's up to 21. You're top 10 in the FBS. You look at the first quarter numbers down there on the bottom left. This is a team that is a slow starter. In a lot of ways, I think you look at every single game for them, it's almost replicates a season. Slow first quarter, you kind of get going a little bit, and by the end, you're doing some good things in the fourth, and you run away with it. But again, this is a Liberty group that, what do they need to do to be consistent in the first half, first quarter, as opposed to waiting till the later stages of the game?
Well, I guess on one piece on the positive, I would say, is you'd rather start a little bit slow but finish super strong than the flip. But I mean, you got to come out ready to play. You know your game plan. You know you're ready to execute. They just got to put it out there, put it on paper, be consistent, and execute the plays like they've done it all week in practice.
I think that's number one. I think number two, last year there was a little bit of a, for lack of a better term, that knockout punch. Like everybody wanted to deliver the big blow early on this team to the opponent and take the wheel right away. I think this year a little bit less of that. They've got to find a way to come back to that mindset, start punching early and in the, if you will, in the fight in the first half instead of waiting until it's mid-third, late fourth quarter to get into the fight.
Can I ask you this? You go back to last year, make the Fiesta Bowl. There was a sense of urgency all season long. Is that urgency lost after you had success? And I know it's only a season, but at the same time, you bring back a fair amount of guys. You bring back your quarterback, who a lot of people are saying best quarterback in the G5. Is the urgency lost?
Sometimes it can be, and I think the main reason for that is you reach the goal, you hit what you think may be the pinnacle, and then the hunger from some players just goes away. I don't think it's a question of how they're coaching it. I don't think it's a question of true desire. I think sometimes just inherently that want to kind of goes away because you've sort of reached a certain height. So I think that can be a little bit of a piece of it.
Well, one area that has not lost their urgency, the defensive side of the ball. TJ Bush in particular, he has been outstanding this season, and he sat down with Emily Austin earlier this week.
So excited for the opportunity to sit down with defensive end TJ Bush. Not sure what took us so long to get you on this show, but thanks for your time.
No problem.
You started on the D-line as a freshman. Now you're 4 games into your sophomore campaign. What's the biggest difference?
I just feel like last year, with being inexperienced, really, it was just kind of you going out there, you got a lot of nerves you're playing with. I feel like this year, I'm just going out there and playing and being myself. So I feel like that's the biggest difference.
Coach Skylar McGee told me you are the oldest sophomore in college football. I need to know more about this.
So I had started school a little later, which had put me a year back. So that's the kind of the running joke in the D-line room that, I'm old and I'm the vet of the room, even though it's only my second year.
Yeah, a sophomore in college. You're such a grandpa. How has your chemistry and communication improved with other guys on the D-line?
I just feel like, we were the same D-line we were from last year. I just feel like everyone, we just gotten older. We played together. We know what to expect from each other. So I feel it helps, when we're rushing. I know what the interiors are going to do, and they know what I'm going to do. So I feel like that helps, we're bonded, and we just have trust in each other.
Yeah, your ability to pressure the quarterback is elite. What makes you such a good pass rusher?
I feel like I've been telling people, I feel like this offseason I truly focused on pass rushing. Last year, I'm not going to say terrible at it, but I feel like my biggest strength was the run defense, and I feel like this past offseason just working with Coach McGee and the other D linemen on pass rushing is showing off.
All-time favorite pass rush move?
That's a hard one. I mean, this year I've been going a lot with the stab and forklift. It's working pretty good, so I'm gonna go with that one.
Can't give away all your secrets.
You can't give away all of them.
Okay, this one is coming from Joe Yock. This is a Joe Yock question. You got to be really, really, scared and careful when he's asking questions. Are you a ripper, clubber, dipper, spinner, or swimmer? What would you say?
I'd definitely say I'm a ripper. I would like to be a spinner and a dipper, but I feel like I'm not that true of a speed rusher, so I'm gonna go with it. I'm a ripper.
I love it. All right, you had a pass breakup on 4th down, huge play in that UTEP game. Do you guys work on that in practice, or does that just come natural from just the adrenaline in a game?
We actually, it's funny you said, we actually do work on a drill. We worked on it yesterday, actually, punching the sled, and then, Coach McGee will hold the ball like he's about to throw it, and we work on jumping and, just getting our hands up. So that's definitely something we work on.
Well, it's definitely showing up in games as well. When you look back to the Fiesta Bowl, I believe you played like 67 snaps. This D-line, much more depth this season. How much does that help you and help you improve as a player on the field?
It definitely helps, being able to go out there and being able to be fresh and just giving 100%. It's definitely something that's a big upgrade from last year. I felt we were a very good D-line last year, but I just feel like, this offseason with us getting a lot more players, the depth has been showing.
So Thanksgiving is coming up. I don't know if you know about this, but we do an annual pie eating contest. I need to know right now if you are going to be a contestant. Aaron Finnemore is looking to repeat and have his back-to-back crown in the pie eating contest. Are you willing to take him on?
I'd like to say I can eat a lot. My go-to is probably wings, but when it comes to pie...
Oh, I can put down some wings.
I can put down some flats.
Oh, I can put down some flats, too.
But, Aaron, when it comes to food, I don't think there's many people that can compete with him. I'm going to have to give that one to Aaron.
All right, we'll see if we can talk you into it. TJ Bush, it's so awesome and fun to watch you play. I'm so happy you're in a Flames uniform.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Emily. Great to see TJ Bush in a Liberty uniform. And Reggie, I know you're a big fan of this guy.
Yeah, I really am. His ability, particularly with his hands as a defensive lineman, I think is special. And he's got a chance to be a really, really good player as he continues to develop. Today is going to be one of those opportunities to have a test. He's going to deal with an offensive lineman, left tackle Travis Burke, a transfer from Gardner-Webb. He played in this stadium a couple of years ago. 6'9", about 310, 315 pounds. Really, really long arms. Can Bush use his arms and hands to get underneath and around Burke and make some plays in the backfield? If Bush is having one of those types of games and he's making plays against Burke, that's going to go a long way, not only in this game, but in terms of his draft prospects, because Burke, while he may not be a high-level NFL draft prospect, his size and dimensions are what you're going to see in the National Football League.
All right, it's going to be a good matchup to watch there. Good eye there by my man Reggie. All right, hey, friends of you at home, before we keep moving on, if you have a question for us, make sure you go over to YouTube real quick, fire a question in the comments. If you're on X right now, jump over to YouTube if you can. Fire some comments. We'd love to answer them as the broadcast goes on. Going to be an interesting matchup under center today. Caden Salter, Kewan Jenkins, both of these mobile quarterbacks that know how to get the job done. And when you look at Jenkins, I wouldn't say he's got a rocket of an arm, but he is mobile. He can get out of dangerous situations. He's got some pretty solid numbers throughout this year.
Yeah, he certainly does. And the first thing that I like about his game is just the athlete that he is, right? Yeah. So he was an Auburn commit in 2022. Decommitted, is obviously now at Florida International. So if he's got SEC offers, if he committed to an SEC school, you know this dude can ball out. Completing low 60% of his passes. I think he's going to do a good job today of keeping plays alive with his legs. That being said, he has gotten in trouble at times this year, throwing across his body back to the middle of the field. But dude's an absolute gamer, there's no doubt.
You talk about throwing across his body back to the middle of the field. A lot of times, if they move him on purpose, remember, he's left-handed, so he's going to be going towards Burke and towards Bush. If he tries to throw across his body that way, he can get himself in a lot of trouble. Bush will be all over him.
Here's Caden Salter. Not the same numbers as a year ago. Pat, you and I talk about this. What does he need? We mentioned the consistency from the offense in the first half. For him to get into a rhythm early on in a game, does he need to hit the safety valves more, like a little play to a tight end and a flat? What would you like to see him get some consistency going earlier?
I think he's effective when they get the quick game going. You know, you hit that third step in your drop, you fire that slant in there, you throw the hitch, you throw the speed out. Getting him, just seeing the ball caught by your receivers getting upfield, that's what I want to see. Call those plays early in the game. That's going to go a long way for you. The other thing I'll say about Caden, we talk about consistency. What I want to see from him in terms of improved leadership is when things don't go your way, if a receiver runs the wrong route, if a receiver drops the ball, it's okay. It is totally okay. We've seen some emotion on the field at times. You want your receivers to know that just supreme confidence in them. I think he could certainly improve there as well.
Pat, how much has the injuries to the wide receiver group affected him this year, would you say?
I think between the injuries and then also between losing your number one guy to go play at LSU, I think that certainly does hurt. But they've had plenty of time in the offseason. You have your, you come out, you're doing practice throughout summer camp. You've had now 4 games underneath your belt. It certainly impacts you, but Rhett, back to your original question. That's why I think it is important early in the game. Get those quick completions, see the guys catching the ball, build that confidence so you can uncork it later in the game.
Yeah, I think the main thing, you mentioned it, is the decisiveness. I want to see him make quicker decisions with the football and really be truly in attack mode at all times. I think that's the first thing. And then in the running game, I want to see him keep it early. If they get into some of those option things, keep it early just to get him lathered up, get him into the game a little bit. Maybe that sort of turns the car on a little bit. I always talk about there are certain guys that it takes a while to get them to crank up the car, and it can be frustrating for a team. Caden Salter kind of seems like one of those guys this year. You can't quite get him to turn the car all the way on. It's in neutral, but he won't put it in drive until the second half.
Well, Coach MacIntyre hoping to keep Salter in neutral. He is standing by with Matt Warner.
Well, Coach, you guys gave up less than 3 yards a carry to Louisiana Tech on the ground last time out. I know Liberty's a different animal when it comes to running the football, but what can you build on from that performance to hopefully slow the Flames down on the ground tonight?
Well, it's a total different offense. Jamey does an unbelievable job with the offense, and they've got the option mentality in it also. And the 20-0, they can run. So we need to tackle them low and wrap them up and be aggressive to the ball, gang tackle, and keep them at bay is what we hope to do.
Your quarterback, Kewan Jenkins, leads the conference in touchdown passes. What's the key for him tonight against a good Liberty defense and also in a hostile road environment?
Yeah, well, the key for us is to be able to protect him up front and for him to stay on some rhythm. And he's really improving every week and growing as a player. And phenomenal young man, and I sure hope he has a great night tonight.
Appreciate it, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
And that was one area of this FIU team that I would say kind of goes under the radar. Athleticism in the receiver groups. You know, I'm going back to it here. I'm gonna be real with everybody. Eric Rivers, 353 yards so far this season. He's a dangerous option that they have at the receiver. You talked about Jenkins. Are they a sneaky good group in the CUSA that could do some damage today?
I certainly think that they are, and they've shown flashes this year. One thing that I think shouldn't go under the radar is they lost their #1 receiver who transferred to Notre Dame in the offseason. So they're replacing an 1,100-yard receiver, 7 touchdowns, but guys have stepped up. So they've got guys that can make plays. I'm intrigued to see how Liberty plays them today. Are they going to press, get up in their face, and say, hey, you have to beat me one-on-one taking your shots, or how this defense is going to play them?
Look, you talk about Rivers, you talk about a guy like Dean Patterson. Let's call a spade a spade. This is FIU. It's South Florida. They don't have athletes. They got athletes. They got guys. You just take the H out. They got guys that can make all types of plays. You got to keep them under control, keep the quarterback under control. The playmakers are there, especially in the backfield as well. But they've got to do a better job handling themselves on third down, extending drives, and then giving themselves a chance to finish those drives.
And Reggie, that's why I think they can be dangerous when the quarterback escapes the pocket and you've got guys with speed that can beat you over the top. It's extending those plays that I'm worried about for the Flames.
Absolutely. With a left-handed quarterback, a guy that's enough of a jitterbug, he can make you miss in a phone booth sometimes. You got to be real careful with a quarterback like that.
Reggie's worried about the South. You know what I mean. All right, let's take a look here. Battle of the turnover battle always is big. When you look here at interceptions, FIU has been intercepted 4 times this season, Liberty once. When it comes to fumbles lost, Liberty at 4 already, and we've mentioned that when you're handling the ball a lot, Reggie, you're inept to some turnovers as it goes on. FIU has fumbled it 5 times.
Yeah, anytime you're running the option game, particularly talking about Liberty here, you're in that option game, there's a lot of ball handling, a lot of that going on. There's going to be some opportunities and situations where you put the football on the ground. And from the FIU standpoint of things, some of it is decision-making. Quarterback's got to be smart what he's doing with the football. Take care of the football. Give your offense a chance. This is a guy completing better than 60% of his passes. Just be smart with the football and give yourself a chance.
Just mentioned, Liberty's only been intercepted once this season, but this is an FIU secondary that has some talented guys. Bryden Blades, a pick on the year, 4 pass breakups. JoJo Evans is a man that likes to get in there. He can be physical. Jamal Potts can bring in some speed from the backfield and get on the quarterback. And Trevion Barnes, a linebacker, but still pretty solid in coverage. Does that 1 interception grow today?
I think this Liberty coaching staff does a really good job of putting their guys in positions to make good plays. They've coached a lot of turnovers out of Caden Salter. I actually think they take care of the ball. I don't think Cade throws an interception, but I think that's a tremendously talented secondary. You mentioned earlier Brian Blades II. His dad, former Miami Hurricane, played in the NFL for several years. He runs in the family. He's got some talent.
2 uncles that played in the NFL, and a cousin, H.B. Blades, also played in the National Football League. The South Florida Blades family, they know how to play football. This is a really smart group. Jamal Potts as well, very intelligent back there in that secondary. This is a group I think is one of the better communicating secondaries in all of the conference as well.
Let's highlight JoJo Evans here for a moment, because when he hits to hurt or end your life, whatever you want to say. Take a look at this one here. Just boom. Cutting across center with your head down, lights out.
I'm relatively certain he tried to take that man's head straight off of his body. Dude is an absolute gamer, the pride of Riviera Beach, Florida. He's fun to watch play. I love to see him fly around on the field. He's got some hands there. Now, let's watch him on the return here. He's like, I'm going to run right for a little while, pick up some blocks, stutter a little bit, make some moves. Dude, if this guy does pick one off today, it's going to be a problem for the Liberty offense to bring him down.
And you saw the first play there. He makes you think about going across the middle because of the way he'll come up and hit you. That's something to keep an eye on with him back there as an enforcer in this football game, because Evans will come up and hit you in the mouth. He's one of those guys, when you watch film, you know how you watch film and there's no sound on it at all?
Yeah.
You can still hear him hitting somebody when there's no sound on the film at all.
He's one of the ones where you're watching and you go, oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
Man.
That's right.
Well, Chadwell and company definitely going to be aware of airing the ball out today. Jamey Chadwell standing by with Matt Warner.
Well, Coach, about 2.5 weeks since your last ball game, layoff like that, obviously you fear a little rust. How do you avoid that coming out? Do you fear it more so on one side of the ball than the other?
I think hopefully from an avoidance standpoint, we tried to scrimmage against the other a little bit just to try to keep us sharp. And so I expect our guys, because they're hungry to play, to come out playing well. I do think when you have a layoff like that, I think from a rhythm standpoint, it does hurt your offense a little bit. Hopefully we won't feel that, but I feel like we've got a good plan to hopefully counteract that a little bit.
You mentioned the strength of FIU's defense being the defensive backs. 6 interceptions, 2 they've taken back to the house. What does Caden Salter need to do tonight to find success against those guys?
Well, they do a great job of sitting on routes and doing some things. So we've got to do a really nice job of making sure we're not trying to do too much. You know, like if it's covered, then go to the next read because they're going to take chances, and that's how they've won some of their games. And so we got to be smart, take care of the ball, but also we got to take some shots at them too. Let them know we're not scared.
Last thing, you're not just the only game in town tonight. You're the only football game in the country tonight. What kind of an opportunity is that for your program and also for your fan base to get that kind of national exposure?
Well, I think from a university standpoint, from a brand standpoint, I mean, you can't put a price tag on it, right? Well, I guess you can. I mean, somebody paid for it. But I think also too, you know, sometimes you're a little forgotten, right? As all these other G5s are getting some notoriety, now we get a chance to be back on television and let people remember who we are and what we're about. So I shared that with the guys that we're on the show in town. Who's going to show up?
Appreciate it, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Only show in town. Can't believe I didn't mention it's already midweek on the mountain. Chris Vannini coming up in just a moment. Our keys to the game and our impact players when we return.
Becoming a champion. It's more than one individual's journey. It's about those who came before you and those who will follow you. But most importantly, it's about the team beside you. The ones to mentor you, support you, and cheer you on in all your endeavors. These are the ones that make a champion. So no matter where you go and who you become, we all need a team like Liberty University.
After the final whistle has blown, join us for the Flames Central Game Day post-game show. We'll bring you the highlights, analyze the impact players, break down the stats, and hear from the Flames. Don't miss out on the post-game analysis that only Flames Central Game Day can provide. Join the Flames Central Game Day post-game show only on the Liberty Flames social media. Flames Central Game Day. It's all about the Flames.
Welcome back to Flames Central Game Day. Kickoff in just under 30 minutes time. Hey there, friends. Make sure you check out the game of the week coming on October 18th. Middle Tennessee traveling to Lynchburg to take on the Flames. That game at 6 p.m. You can tune in on ESPN+. Lady Flames playing some solid volleyball right now. Well, hey, it's that time of the show when we get in touch with Chris Vannini. Pat, I'm going to put you on standby. I need a theme song for this guy to get in the future. We'll get to that afterwards. Emily standing by with Chris Vannini.
What a wild and chaotic week 6 of college football. We're going to talk about it with the Athletics' Chris Vannini for a CUSA outlook. But Chris, first, before we talk about current CUSA players, I feel like we need to talk about a former QB from New Mexico State who is now at Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia beating Bama. I have to know what was going through your mind when that happened.
I think everybody who saw Diego Pavia at New Mexico State knew he could do stuff like that. He's just a gamer who shows up in the biggest games. And really, Vanderbilt's success this year, they have kind of imported last year's New Mexico State team. They hired the offensive coordinator, Tim Beck. They brought the former head coach, Jerry Kill, to be an assistant. And they brought the quarterback, Diego Pavia. So we saw New Mexico State win 10 games last year. And now they're going over to the SEC and beating Alabama together. So it's been a pretty fun story.
It's been so cool to see. I bet the Aggies wish that they had him this year. But bringing it back to Conference USA, going into the season, Sam Houston was your sleeper team. The Bearcats sitting at 5-1 overall record and then 2-0 in the conference. Have they now become your favorite team for this conference?
I wouldn't say favorite, but I think they're my new number 2. They're right there. You know, I think I had Western Kentucky and Liberty as my top 2, but I'm going to go with Sam Houston right now. They are just rolling, and they're running the ball better than even Liberty does. Liberty was obviously one of the best rushing teams in the country last year, but Sam Houston's getting it done on the ground. They beat Texas State a couple of weeks ago. They are really rolling after last year's 0-8 start. They went 3-1 in their last handful of games. That momentum has continued into this year, and this is the team that Conference USA expected when they added Sam Houston to the conference. They were one of the best teams in FCS. So it took, a year to get going, but this is the program I think everybody expected to see.
And I feel like, unlike last year, we're seeing Sam Houston win those close games that they weren't able to get over the hump last year. When you look at Liberty, 11 regular season games, even if the Flames run the table because of that canceled game against App State last week, is there still a chance that Liberty could make the playoff?
There's definitely a chance. If you're an undefeated Group of 5 champion, you will have a chance. And I do think the App State game, with the way App State has played this year, is maybe less impactful to not have that game. But that was going to be the biggest, what we thought was going to be the biggest game of the year for Liberty. Now there might be some Conference USA games with some teams that might be bigger now. It just depends what happens elsewhere. Boise State looks really good, and they've only got one loss to Oregon. If Boise State wins out, they're probably getting that spot, but they may not. They've got to play UNLV in a couple of weeks. We'll see where that goes. We've got a couple of American teams that have lost. James Madison just lost to ULM in the Sun Belt. So it's really hard to predict what everybody else is going to do. But if Liberty is 11-0, then 12-0 if you win the conference, they'll be right there in the conversation for sure.
One of the things we've been keeping up with all of your articles about all the shifting with the conferences, the Pac-12, UTEP leaving Conference USA to head to the Mountain West. That won't happen until 2026. But what does that mean for Conference USA?
Well, that's a move that UTEP has wanted to make for a very, very long time. It just makes sense geographically. They'll be playing teams in the Pacific and Mountain time zones where they are at. It's a lot easier than having to come all the way over to Liberty and some of these East Coast teams in the conference. For Conference USA, you're still sitting all right now. You're set to get to 11 teams when Delaware and Missouri State come in. Do you try to find a 12th? It's hard to say, because to move up from FCS is pretty difficult now with a $5 million fee. So we'll have to wait and kind of see. And there is some time for Conference USA to make a decision if they need to. So it's unclear kind of if there's more. If some more teams potentially go somewhere else, that could change the dynamic as well.
Chris Vannini, thanks so much for your time. As always, to follow along with all of the college football updates and great coverage, you can follow him at Chris Vannini on X. Thanks so much. We'll see you right back here for more midweek on the mountain action later this month.
Thanks for having me.
Good to hear from Chris and Emily. You guys know Liberty fans' second favorite team right now? Warhawks. Any team that
Louisiana Monroe.
Any team that beats JMU is always in the heart of Liberty fans.
Right, let me circle back to one thing you asked a minute ago.
Please.
You said,
the
hey,
song.
we need a theme to maybe kick it to Chris Vannini on a weekly basis. One song that really comes to mind, LL Cool J had the song Mama Said Knock You Out. I know Liberty fans, give Chris Vannini a little bit of grief, saying
That's true.
Put some respect on our name. Yeah. So maybe, hey, Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, I don't know. One of those two songs.
I like that one.
One of those two.
Yes. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I see how you're rolling over there.
Maybe some Michael Jackson, Beat It, like get the heck out. I don't know.
I'm with you.
Who knows?
I will say this, though. He mentioned that Sam Houston is his new number 2. He did not mention who is number 1.
I think it's assumed. It's got to be Liberty, right?
Okay, because he was a big Western Kentucky guy last year.
I think coming into the year, though, I think he picked Liberty as kind of the preseason.
He did.
My guess, unless he's really pulling the sheep over our eyes or something, I think Liberty's probably that number 1.
All right, well, time to take a look now at our Segra Impact players. We start off with a linebacker we mentioned earlier for FIU, Travion Barnes.
Yeah, another guy that will just kind of take your head off. The guy's top 10 in the country in solo tackles this year, just finds a way to be around the ball. I believe leading Conference USA in tackles, just always around the ball, always making plays. You see here, 86-yard interception return for a touchdown. Dude is a certified baller.
That pick six was a school record #1 in terms of distance. The other thing is he'll get after the quarterback as well. A couple of quarterback pressures on the season, so they'll use him in their blitz packages also. But you see right there, absolutely finisher at the point of attack.
They said that Lexington Joseph, they call him Flex, much like I call Reggie Flex. They said this guy looked like him old self last week against Louisiana Tech. He is just some Alberta beef. Like, he is a big man.
Yeah, think about it. Less than 5'10", about 215 pounds. You're not going to bring this guy down with one hand. But the scary thing about him is if he gets to the third level, if he gets to your secondary, he can run away from some of these guys as well with that 4.5 type speed. So he's physical at the point of attack, and then he can run away from guys. A true danger when he gets the football in his hands, and solid out of the backfield.
And then Dexter Ricks Jr. This is a young guy in the secondary for LU, Pat, that has made some pretty solid plays this year, and a year in which I think you need somebody to step up.
Yeah, all this time I thought his name was Dexter Picks because he's just intercepting every pass thrown his way. 14th in the country in interceptions. He's a guy who stepped up, and you needed that after you lost some depth. You lose a transfer to Colorado, you lose Kobe Singleton. I've been really impressed with his game. Do not try this guy today because he will come down with the ball.
And then we talked about injuries for the Flames at the wide receiver position. He had another one go down in practice this week. Elijah Canyon, he's going to need to be a focus for LU.
Yeah, he really is. Not only in this aspect of it, pushing the ball down the field, but when they get down in the red zone, he's got to lean on that 6'4", 225-pound frame. They got to be able to throw him some of those jump balls in the end zone. He's got to go make plays down in the red area and allow this team to finish drives with touchdowns, especially as we talked about in the first half, because they've had some struggles scoring the football early. He's got to be a guy they can lean on down there in the red zone.
You got to really think Reese Smith and Canyon have to kind of be that 1-2 punch this week for the Flames and moving forward throughout this season.
They're proving they can do it with anyone, but, I do like this Canyon pick. Being that he's a tall receiver, we keep going basketball references go, make those jump ball plays, come down with it for a touchdown. One part of his game that's underrated, dude's averaging almost 19 yards per catch. So he's not just a 6-yard, I'm going to go for the fade and catch it. He can take the top off of you guys, too.
Well, hey, make sure you keep sending in your questions to YouTube. We've seen some of them so far. We will answer them coming back after the break. Well, every sack is a sack to give back this season. Food Lion Feeds will donate 1,000 meals to a neighbor in need for each Liberty sack this season. Flames with 9 sacks on the year, 39 QB hurries, so they're getting awfully close to that quarterback. TJ Bush leads the Flames with 4 sacks.
Second down and 9. Pocket throws it towards the end zone. Jumping to the 10 to the 5. Stretches pylon.
Everyone who's ever believed in these times before you get a chance to shine. Embrace the vision, roar of the crowd, strike the stone.
This is my time. I'm on the rise. Can't hold me down. I'm too fly. This is my time. Ready to shine. Brighter than all of the lights. 'Cause when it's game time, seconds away.
Nope. You don't have to play sports to enjoy them. Get tickets on the Liberty Flames app or at liberty.edu/tickets.
Tucked away in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Lynchburg, Virginia, you'll find us, Liberty University. Here, we pursue excellence in all of our academic endeavors, from anywhere. We fight for victory in our athletic programs and fan the flames with a mighty roar. We equip students with a Christ-centered perspective that changes lives. We are creators, problem solvers, and world changers. But above all of this, we are champions for Christ.
Welcome back to Lynchburg, Virginia. Flames looking to stay undefeated on the year. Kickoff coming up in just over 10 minutes time. Well, we asked you to send in your questions on YouTube. We got a couple of them. First off, Midnight Magic sounds like a friend of Joe Yock, I will say. Asking if the Flames, that is, will be rusty after basically a 3-week absence of play.
I think you may see a little bit of rustiness. You know, just like anytime you get into gameplay, it takes 1 or 2 series, whether you're on offense or defense, to kind of get your game legs underneath of you. I think you could certainly see that as well. These guys are so routine driven. You do the same thing Monday through Sunday. I think you could see a little bit of rust.
I think the other piece of it is you're used to the Saturday rotation. Then you had to shift to playing on Tuesdays now because of the conference schedule. So I think that's a piece of the change. It's one thing to sit out 2 or 3 weeks in a row, but you're on the same routine that Monday through Friday. When you have to sort of flip the routine and change those days up, it makes things a little bit more difficult.
Reggie, is it kind of funny to you that last year we were talking about Liberty having to play like 4 games in almost 3
19
weeks?
days, yeah.
19 days, and now we're talking about them playing once in 3 weeks.
Well, it's one of those things, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they come out in this game, and if they're able to win it, I think that'll be one of the conversations that you have to lean into when it comes to Jamey Chadwell and his team's preparation. Those 4 games in 19 days last season, they came out unscathed. If they can come out on the other side of 1 game, essentially, or 2 games in 17 days, that's called responding to whatever is in front of you, and you have to lean into the coaching staff and give them credit for keeping the team prepared.
All right, Reggie, I'm going to stick with you. Somebody said you were the Bob Costas of college football, so I feel like you get this.
That was
question.
Reggie who typed that. Reggie called himself Bob Costas.
I can almost guarantee you the person who wrote that, their last name starts with an M. I'm not going to call out all the names, but I can guarantee you the last name starts with an M. It's one of 2 people. They're brothers. They know who I'm talking about.
The struggles, why can't Liberty just schedule another game after having the App State game canceled? What is the difficulties in that?
You know, that's an interesting question, and I think a lot of people, they look back to the COVID years when there were the COVID year, I should say, when games were being scheduled sort of at the last minute, like, oh, this team's not going to play. Hey, we'll play you on Friday, whatever. It's a little bit different now with the way schedules are laid out, conference affiliations and different networks. There's just a lot of moving pieces to that, as well as travel and hotels and those types of things. So very difficult to just add a game. And then the other piece of it, what are you adding? Who are you adding to play? What value does it create? If you're talking about, from a Liberty standpoint, losing the App State game, you got to schedule somebody like or better to really have an impact on the schedule. It's not going to help you to schedule another team that's not going to impact your strength of schedule in a positive way.
Bringing in an FCS school is going to do you no good at this point.
No.
All right, Pat. That leads us now to our keys of the game. You were looking at the away team this week. Walk us through FIU.
Yeah, so we've got 3 words for our keys for the game. We've got ticks, picks, and kicks. You know, we talk about Pitbull. We got some rhyme in here. But ticks being tick, tick, tock, you know, you've got to take some time off of the clock. This team has lost the time of possession battle every game except 1 this year. That makes your defense super tired, and you can't have your defense feeling like they're in a CrossFit class in the middle of the game. Like, they need some rest. You've got to be able to let your offense stay on the field. You've got to convert on 3rd down. They've been really bad on 3rd down this year, so establishing drives take time off the clock. Key number 2 is going to be picks. They've got to get some takeaways here. You know, this team so far this year, they are 27th in the country in interceptions. They've got to give this offense extra possessions during the game because Liberty's going to score points. So intercept the ball, recover fumbles. You've got to be able to generate some turnovers, get those takeaways to put some points on the board. And then the last one that I would say, kicks. So we go ticks, picks, and then kicks. Every drive needs to end in a kick, whether that is an extra point or a field goal. You've got to put points on the board because you're not going to beat Liberty scoring 13 points, 17 points. You've got to be effective on offense. You've got to end these drives with some kicks.
All right, Reggie, walk us through the Flames.
Since we're talking off music, I'm going to keep with the music theme. The first key for Liberty, keep playing the hits. That means run the football because that is what they do. Liberty runs the football. This right here, we'll talk about this in a minute defensively. But the first thing is keep playing the hits. Run the football. They average 216.5 yards a game. And then FIU gives up 186 on the ground. The second key, understand the governor. And what I mean is, by understand the governor, TJ Bush and everybody up front, don't get too far upfield against K'Wan Jenkins. Keep him in the pocket, Make him have to beat you from inside the pocket. Don't get too far upfield to allow him to step up and start running around. And then the last one, pilfer proficiency. Take the football away if you're Liberty. Create turnovers. You should have a chance to win this football game.
All right, once again, this game coming up at 7 p.m. Kickoff just moments away. That will be on CBS. Make sure you tune in right back here for the post-game show. Reggie, Pat, and I will see you right there.